Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle May Curry, and I'm the curator of DC's Commission on the Arts and Humanities. And you are tuned into the second of three workshops related to our FY27 art exhibition grant line. Today, we will be going over the grant program from head to toe. We'll be together for a little over an hour. And there will be opportunities for you to answer questions. Please just use the chat. So this grant program is extremely special. It's a very unique grant program within the Arts Commission's offerings, and it's an opportunity for independent curators who are interested in curating our I Street Gallery space. It provides support for the development and public presentation of visual art exhibitions by DC resident curators. To cover an eligibility concern at the very top of our conversation today, you do have to be a DC resident or a DC-based nonprofit organization in order to be eligible for this grant program. And this program offers use of our iStreet gallery space, which I'll talk a little bit more about on the next slide. And it also offers a virtual gallery space that is built to the specs of our iStreet gallery for use, for accessibility use. Uh, there are two opportunities for interested independent curators that track with our calendar year. So our winter 2027 slot, you can apply for with a social justice themed exhibition, or you can apply for our spring 2027 slot with an open theme. So any type of exhibition is welcome in that time. You can specify that you'd like to be considered for either slot, but you should say which one you would prefer to be a part of. And this grant program, because it's such a unique opportunity that requires both curatorial work as well as programmatic work, as well as, financial grants administration, we really do encourage that you apply with a co-curator or mentee. I think of curating as a team sport, and curating our gallery space, it certainly requires that. So applying with somebody to support you in this work not only supports your work, but it also grants you an extra $5,000. So you can apply for up to $35,000 if you are applying with a co-curator, and up to $30,000 if you are applying as a solo curator. So as I mentioned, this exhibition that you would be proposing would be mounted in the DC Arts Commission's I Street Gallery space. And our I Street Gallery is located at 200 I Street in Navy Yard. It also serves as the headquarters for the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. It's located in the lobby of that building, and we share the building with Child and Family Services, as well as the Office of Technology for the DC government. So it's a shared building space, but that lobby is at the entrance of the building, and it's a really welcoming, brightly lit, and open space in that front area. It is our primary exhibition space for the Arts Commission. There are no other gallery locations owned or run by the Arts Commission. And it has a very specific mission in comparison to a museum like the Smithsonian System that has a very long multi-year on-ramp towards curating very heavily researched museum exhibitions. And in comparison to a gallery where the purpose might be primarily to sell work on a short time frame. So you'll see exhibitions up for anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. This sort of sits in that middle ground. This exhibition space in I Street Gallery, we curate on about a 6 week to 2 month window. And its purpose, the I Street Gallery's purpose, because it's the gallery operated by the DC government, it is primarily funded by DC taxpayer dollars, and therefore is beholden to the desires and the community wishes of DC residents and resident artists, as well as people who are working and living within the region. We do take that quite seriously as our mission. So we think of our mission as supporting and presenting high quality visual arts programming that reflects the rich diversity and cultural expression of Washington, D.C. That doesn't mean that the shows have to be about Washington, D.C., or even have to exclusively have DC resident artists. Those aren't requirements of this grant line, but it should reflect the diversity of this region. We do take the work of community engagement and accessibility and civic dialogue quite seriously as a result of this mission. So you might think about this grant line as unique in that way that we're not only interested in supporting visual art exhibitions broadly defined, but we're interested in bringing in exhibitions that engage the metropolitan public in conversations around culture, history, community, politics, that sort of bring people together in accessible and reachable ways. The gallery is open Monday to Friday. We have special events on the weekend sometimes, but the main gallery hours are from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So something to keep in mind as you're curating the space. These are the timeframes for the 2 open slots for this grant line. The social justice theme happens right after the winter holidays and goes through early March, with install and deinstall windows happening right before and after that window. And then our open theme goes from early April to right before the Memorial Day holiday, again, with install and deinstall windows before and after that window. The submission deadline is a little over a month away at this point. It is Monday, June 29th, and you must submit your application by 4:59 p.m. So in a lot of locations, it says 5 p.m. And I want to let everyone know who's watching this that the 5 p.m. cutoff is that the portal shuts down at 5 p.m. So if you try to apply at 5 p.m., you won't be able to. You have to get it in before 5 p.m. And it is quite a long process between submission and notification. This is because we undergo a rigorous panel review process that takes place over the summer, and then we have to bring our recommendations up in front of the commission for review. So you will not get notified until after October 1st of an award or a decline on your application. So just a couple things to keep in mind on timing for your planning purposes. So to discuss eligibility a little bit, in order to be eligible for this grant program, again, you can be an individual or a nonprofit arts organization. If you're an individual, you have to be an artist, a curator, so somebody who has curated in the past, or an arts-related professional that is aged over 18. And you have to be a legal resident of the District of Columbia for at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. So if you've moved to DC in the last 6 months, last 2 months, etc., unfortunately, you're not eligible for this grant line. You do have to maintain residency in DC for the duration of the grant term, so you can't move to Maryland or Virginia, etc., while working on this grant line. And then you have to be in good standing with the Arts Commission. So this applies to you if you've applied and received grants from the DC Commission previously and you have delinquent reports. So that means that you received a grant line that had a final report requirement that you did not fulfill. So it may or may not apply to you, and usually you know who you are if it does. In order to be eligible as a nonprofit arts organization, you do have to be incorporated as a 501(c)(3), dated at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. You have to be an arts organization or gallery who represents artists living in the metropolitan area. You have to have a primary business office located in DC. with a majority of your activities occurring within DC. There's a few things you can't be, such as a college or university, a foreign government, or DC public schools. And again, you do have to be in good standing with CAH. I'm going to pause here and see if anyone has questions at this point. Feel free to use the chat, and if there's no questions, I'll keep on moving.
There were no questions in the chat.
Okay. And I'll just note here that all of the pictures that you see in this presentation are examples of arts exhibition grant exhibitions that we've hosted in our gallery in the last 5 or so years. So to give you a sense of what's possible in our gallery space. So I do want to cover here what is an allowable expense within your budget. So you will have to submit a budget with your application. There's a number of application requirements. For your budget, you are required to have a curatorial fee. So if you want to pay yourself as a curator, that fee should not exceed 20% of your budget. If you'd like to pay a co-curator, or have curatorial staff, that combined cannot exceed 20% of your budget as well. You can pay artists or artistic personnel. So that could be artists who are in the show, or artists who are creating art as a part of the show, photography, being a part of programming, performance artists, etc. You can purchase equipment or rent equipment, purchase supplies for exhibition design. You can fabricate things that will need to be fabricated for the show. We do have a number of pedestals available for use, but if you need to create special pedestals for the show, that is something that you could purchase. You will have to hire certified installers who can install the show, art handlers. So you can pay those folks to install and deinstall the show. There, you can purchase things like frames for the artwork, vinyl wall text for interpretation materials in the gallery. You can pay for the delivery and return of the artwork to the artist. So you can, if you are bringing in work from an artist who lives in New York or Philadelphia, you can pay for the shipping of that artwork or their travel to and from to be a part of this show. You can create a website and pay for that website. You can get photography of the artworks or of the show itself. You can print flyers. You can rent any type of programming equipment. We do have things like chairs available for use. Any programming that you do, you can pay honoraria to the folks who are a part of that. You will have to purchase commercial general liability and property insurance for this grant line in order to protect yourself as well as the artwork while doing work in the gallery. So you can pay for the insurance costs associated with this grant line. If you need to purchase a storage facility to hold artwork before you can get into our storage space, you can pay for space rental. If you need to travel related to the curation of the show, let's say you have to do a studio visit for an artist in New Orleans, you can travel to New Orleans to do that. And then if you'd like to create any documentation of the exhibition itself, you can pay for that. So if you'd like to produce a video of the exhibition, if you'd like to create a printed catalog, you can pay for that as well. So possibilities are endless, and it really is a fascinating and fantastic opportunity for folks who are independent curators to really sort of stretch the bounds of their curatorial practice. I'm seeing a question in the chat. We're a nonprofit, but not primarily devoted to the arts. Are we eligible? I'd be happy to talk to you about that. It might be a case where applying with a co-curator who is very much so dedicated in their curatorial practice to artists might be the best way that you could signal that you are able to do this work. If you're a nonprofit that does not hasn't worked in the curatorial space before, it could be a signal to our panel that you're not equipped to do this exhibition work. But if you have a record of doing curatorial work in the past or working with artists in certain ways, um, that you're able to signal that. But Ting, maybe we can talk, or you can send me an email with a little bit more information about your nonprofit. And John, to your question, up to $30,000 for solo or partner. So if you're applying solo, you are eligible for $30,000 worth of funding. And if you're applying with a co-curator, then you're eligible for $35,000 of funding. Okay. So there's a bunch of unallowable expenses, so things that you can't use grant funds in order to purchase. You cannot purchase food or beverages, unfortunately, with this grant amount. So you can't have food at the gallery that is purchased with the grant funds. So you could purchase food uh, using your own funds or sponsored
Okay.
from a caterer, for example. You cannot sub-grant or re-grant the funds, so you can't host like a competition where the purpose is that you're re-granting the funds. You can't purchase, you can't pay for tuition or scholarships with the funds. And so by extension, you cannot fund universities, organizations, any of the organizations that are ineligible for this grant line, you cannot pay with our funds. Any costs related to a fundraiser or an offsite special event. So let's say that as a part of getting more funds for this exhibition, you would like to host an event at a gallery space. You cannot purchase the that space for using these grant funds. And then anything pretty much not related to this grant, you cannot use the funds for. So let's say that you were having a lunch with somebody while you were working on this on this grant line. You cannot pay for that lunch with these grant funds. You can't purchase food or beverage, period, but the act of connecting with somebody unrelated during that time would not be covered by this grant line. We do support independent curators who are applying for this grant line in understanding the scope and size of our gallery space by providing uh, uh, renderings of our gallery space. So there are gallery images as well as a virtual gallery for your view on the landing page for this grant program. These are all accessible to you for use if you would like to submit an optional rendering with your application. As I said, it's an optional rendering, so you might decide to place images of the artworks on the blank walls in those images, or this might just help you get a sense and feel for the space. Though I do recommend visiting the gallery space in person. Again, it's quite a unique space because it's multi-tiered as well as shares a space with a lobby for a DC government building. So to get a sense of the space, I would really encourage you stopping by during business hours. And this is a link to our virtual gallery space, though we will have this all in links for you a little bit later. So for the artwork included in this exhibition, here's some exhibition guidance for that work. So you can submit 2 and 3-dimensional works for inclusion in the show. And the work does not have to be created when you submit the work. This is especially true for if you're working with a group that tends to work together in exhibitions uh, previously. So let's say that you are a part of a cohort that every year puts on the same show. So in this last year, we welcomed the Queer Art Salon into our gallery space. This is a group of artists who have been putting on a queer art salon during Pride Month every year for some time. They submitted currently existing works with their application, knowing that they would be bringing in all new work created by those artists at the time of exhibition. So, to give the panelists a sense of who those artists were, they submitted previously existing work and noted that it would be all new work for this show. You do have to obtain artist consent to apply with their artwork in this exhibition. So there will be a requirement where you show that you have connected with the artist, maybe in writing explicitly, and they have said, I agree to my work being a part of this show if awarded. All of this artwork is subject to CAH approval. So you do have to make sure that all of the artworks are approved at the time of exhibition. And then curators are often artists themselves, and we recognize that and want to create opportunities for curators who identify as artists to display their work as well. This is not a solo exhibition opportunity, so you do have to submit multiple artists' work. It should be a group show. Uh, so a curator should not be submitting their work for a solo exhibition of their work, for example. So that's why we say that a curator may include up to two of their own artworks in an exhibition in our gallery space. Uh, for install and deinstall, as I said, we do require that you hire certified installers and art handlers for the work coming into our space. And the curator is responsible for coordinating the install and deinstall of the gallery. And we do have a number of pieces of equipment available for your use in the gallery space. There is a list at the end of the RFA that specifies what all of those equipment items are, but it's things like TVs, wall mounts for TVs, TV stands, pedestals of varying sizes, chairs, tables, sandwich boards for hanging posters, etc. Curators are required to submit programming concepts alongside the exhibition concept. This is because, as I said at the top, our mission as a gallery space is to welcome the DMV arts community into our space to engage in dialogue and events with each other. So we'd like to see that curators have thought about how their exhibition concept lends itself to engagement with the community. So curators are responsible for planning, promoting, and hosting at least an opening reception and one other exhibition-related educational program. This can be an artist talk, it can be a closing reception. We've had performance nights, we've had finders walks outside of the gallery space where participants are asked to find recycled objects and turn them into art. There's opportunities abound in our gallery space. This is a grant line that is reviewed by a jury panel. All of the DC Arts Commission's grant lines are reviewed by a jury panel. And there are a few evaluation criteria that the panel is asked to use to evaluate your application. The first, which is where 30% of your score is to discuss or to understand the exhibition concept. So the selection of the work is clear. The curatorial premise demonstrates original theories, ideas, or perceptions. The concept has potential and presents compelling ideas. It has the potential to stimulate dialogue. So this is where we sort of think about how the concept lends itself to discussion and programming. And then the related programs that are proposed are thoughtful and creative in their intent. The next, which is 30% of your score, looks at the selected artwork itself. So the artwork demonstrates artistic excellence and high aesthetic quality itself. I want to note here that high aesthetic quality is a very subjective term. If you are submitting student artwork, so let's say a work created by fourth graders, a high aesthetic quality is, of course, subjective there, and we would like to promote uh, sort of innovative concepts in all of their forms. The curatorial statement should make clear connections to how each artist's work relates to the exhibition concept. So in your exhibition concept, it shouldn't just be about the concept as a whole, but how your selected works connect to that concept. And then the curator, we want to see how the curator has thought about our unique gallery space. So, as I noted, there are these multiple tiers in our space, and we want to see how you're thinking about how artwork selection maps onto our unique space. Another 30% of your criteria is tied to opportunity and equity. So we want to see how the applicant shows evidence of intentionality around exhibition programming and how it might welcome an inclusive environment. We want to see how you are engaging emerging or underrepresented artists, specifically artists without gallery representation. These are artists, this is a majority of our artist community, I'd say. We would like to see a thoughtful connection with your co-curator, so how you plan on engaging your co-curator or mentee in the exhibition process. And then we want to see exhibition programming that engages a diversity of people. So not only is the concept reflect cultural diversity, we also want to see the people that are welcomed in representing a range of physical abilities, languages, cultures, ages, etc. Then finally, we'll be looking at the budget and feasibility of your budget that you've submitted. So the itemization and breakdown is realistic, it's achievable. You are paying your artists who are part of this exhibition. You are thinking clearly about how much install costs, how much vinyl costs, etc. And then the production of the exhibition is feasible within the time allotted in the exhibition schedule. So let's say that you are trying to travel a show from uh, Italy to DC, and you are applying with a fully formed exhibition concept. That's brilliant, but the timeline to get the artwork to DC is just not realistic. And it also it's including artists who it's going to cost thousands of dollars just to ship their work to DC. That is not a reasonable exhibition unless you have, a magic wand. And that is where that will be reviewed. I'm now going to go over the mandatory documents required for at the time of application. I'll then go through the documents that will be required if you are to receive this grant line. So with your application, you will submit an exhibition proposal that has a curatorial statement that relates to the proposed exhibition. This will be a maximum of 500 words. Then you will submit a outline and timeline of the proposed programming and events. We have created templates that map onto the exhibition time slots for your use. You can find those on CH's website and the landing page for this grant line. Then you will submit the resumes for yourself, the applicant, as well as your co-curator if you're applying with one. This can be submitted as one document. You'll then submit the written consent from artists whose work you're submitting with. That again can be submitted all in one document. You'll submit a comprehensive budget, and we have provided a budget template for your use. Again, that can be found on the grant page for this grant line. And then you'll submit artist statements of all of the artists whose work you're submitting. These are just descriptions of the artist's practice. They shouldn't exceed 250 words. If you're submitting artwork by artists who are, let's say, students or happen to produce work during a program and you're no longer connected with those artists, you can then submit um, a mission statement of the organization that you were working with that produced that work. Um, Jonte, I saw your hand raised. Do you want to ask a question about any of the materials here?
I was going to ask if the co-curator does that is could that be an individual or do they have to have a 501c3 or
That can
herself?
be an individual. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So next you'll submit a image list for the proposed work. So underneath each work that you'll submit, you'll have an opportunity to fill in a table that lists the artist's name, the title, the year, the dimensions, and the materials used. That will be used to sort of help the panel understand the work. So you'll do that for each artwork. You'll then submit images again of those works. So uh, these works should be sort of strong visuals of that work. So it shouldn't be obscured. There shouldn't be a glare on the image. Shouldn't be blurry. Just following best practices for photographing work. There should be strong works. And again, those works can change at the time of exhibition, but you'll want to submit work at this stage to give the jury a sense of what the who the artists are whose work you're submitting. If you plan on working with children under the age of 18 in this space, you'll have to submit a background check of for yourself and for any personnel that will be working with those children in the space. And then this is an optional submission component, but we do highly encourage that you submit a rendering of the exhibition using the provided images and layouts of the gallery space, or using the virtual gallery space as it is used on our website. I'm seeing a question in the chat. Will these grants be available in following years, or is this the only for the 2027 year? The timeline for these grants shows June 29th as the deadline, which is not feasible for us. So we do have this grant line every year. It is available every year. And you should feel free to look out for this grant opportunity around this time next year. We always open up applications in the spring, early summertime, specifically for this grant line. And it's totally reasonable, especially considering the number of requirements. It's totally reasonable to spend some time thinking about how you would propose a grant for this work. So there are a number of mandatory compliance documents that you'll submit with your application. These are documents that anyone submitting for grants for the Arts Commission will submit these documents. I'll run through them now. The first is a certificate of clean hands. This is a tax document that you'll obtain from the Office of Tax and Revenue via the My Tax DC website. And this is a document that certifies that you do not owe any money in the form of unpaid taxes or fines to the DC government. The logic behind obtaining this certificate is that the DC government does not want to grant funds to an individual or organization that owes the DC government money. We recognize that this is quite a hurdle for a lot of artists to obtain this tax document. It is a simple process online, so you don't have to go in person anywhere or really submit too much documentation in order to obtain it. But we recognize that it can be a hurdle when artists are underpaid and can't always pay their taxes or can't always pay fines. If you are that person, you can obtain a provisional certificate of clean hands by showing that you have gone into a payment plan with the DC government, with Office of Tax and Revenue. I'm happy to send more information to you if you are that person. The next are pretty standard documents. The statement of certification document can be found on CAH's website. It's a document that's specific to the Arts Commission. If you are applying to any of our grant lines, you'll submit this document. And it's just a document that certifies that you've basically read through our terms and conditions for grant making. You'll fill out your name, your address, and you'll sign and date that document and upload it with your application. You'll then submit a W-9 from March 2024, the March 2024 version. There are a few different versions out there, and the 2024 version is the one that we accept. This is just a tax document that we'll use to verify your name, address, and social security number. You'll sign and date that and submit it with your application. And then finally, you'll submit a proof of residency. So this can be a valid driver's license or ID, real ID, or it can be two other documents that demonstrate your proof of residency in the district. So this can be a utility bill, a lease agreement, and this documentation should indicate that the applicant has been a resident of DC for at least a year. For nonprofit organizations, there are a couple extra eligibility requirements in the form of compliance documents. You'll submit a IRS letter of determination, a DC tax certificate of incorporation, and then your IRS Form 990 from your most recent fiscal year. I'm going to pause here and see if there's any questions. I'm not seeing any in the chat, but please let me know if you have any. The next bit of documentation will come after you've been awarded. And I just want to flag them so that you have an understanding of what's to come if you were to get this award. Curators are required to provide proof of commercial general liability insurance as well as property insurance as a part of curating our gallery space. This is mostly to protect you from any fines or legal battles that may incur if something were to go terribly wrong in our gallery space during the run of the exhibition. In the form of sort of the artwork breaking, any injury related to install or people navigating the gallery space during that time. There is some support from CAH in navigating obtaining this property insurance and general liability insurance, but it is something that you'll have to purchase at the time of award. There are a number of requirements 30 days prior to exhibition installation, and all of these are things that you will have created as a part of curating the gallery space. We'll review a virtual rendering of the exhibition for approval by CAH. You'll submit an object checklist that's just a list of all the work in the show. You'll submit the artwork labels that will go next to the artwork for review, any vinyl wall text that will appear on the walls, artist bios that can be used for comms purposes, any marketing and promotional materials that you'll be using. So if you have a website, if you're creating a press release, social media graphics should be created by the curatorial team. So CAH will promote your exhibition on all of our channels, but we will not create the social media assets themselves. Those will come from you. And then any final programming dates and times, Eventbrite related to those events, or RSVP links broadly. any written letters of consent from artists who have been added or subtracted from your show. We'll sort of finalize that artist list then. And then if you've included any programming with youth, you'll submit those background checks. Upon completion of the exhibition, so after the show has been successfully mounted and then deinstalled, you've sort of run through the grant term, you'll be submitting a final grant budget form, which includes all of the receipts for the eligible exhibition costs. So you'll account for this money to the penny and submit a spreadsheet that shows all of those purchases as well as the attending receipts. And you'll submit a final report that provides answers to a series of short answer questions about sort of outcomes, impact of use of the gallery space. These are just a few classic tips for preparing an application for this grant line. We do recommend that you sort of create a folder on your browser, on your desktop, that allows you to have all of your documents in one place and that has a common naming organization. So potentially your last name or the name of the show underscore W9, your last name underscore clean hands. This allows us to review the materials quickly and it allows you to sort of insert quickly as you're working through the application. We recommend that you have someone from outside of your discipline read through your application materials. The beauty of a jury panel process is that we bring in experts from across the arts landscape. And curators tend to be generalists with some specifications along the way or expertise along the way. But you want to make sure that your exhibition concept is legible to many different types of people. Prior to that June 29th deadline, you'll want to complete your application because I will be much more available to answer any questions that you have if you're working up before that deadline. And if you have any technical issues, there is a support system via our application portal Submittable. There's like a little icon in the corner that allows you to get any questions answered that you need. So if it's a technical issue related to the portal, there is a separate mechanism for getting you support other than me. But if it's related to the grant line, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So I'm now going to transition to a quick demonstration of how to submit on our platform. We recently transitioned from Jungle Lasers, which was our old grant application portal, to Submittable, which is a new and very commonly used application portal. I'm just going to walk through submitting and clicking through the buttons, but I've included a couple screenshots at the end of this application here, just so you can see what it looks like, as well as a short video of someone running through a different grant line for CAH, but that shows sort of what the application looks like. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to go to the Submittable portal so you can see what it looks like. So first, I want to show you the landing page for this opportunity, the art exhibition grant line. You'll see that it shows the exhibition schedule, the links to register for the Eventbrites, the workshops, which you're in one right now. You'll see some key links where you can see the gallery specs, so the images of the gallery, as well as dimensions here. The budget template that you'll need, the W9, statement of certification, the timeline templates for submitting programming, and then the whole request for applications is sort of linked here, but you'll see the entire the request for applications, which is the sort of how you understand the whole grant line, that is linked right up at the top here. To apply for this grant opportunity, you can click grant application portal, and it'll take you to our grant application portal with Submittable. And you'll see that we have 2 opportunities open for at the Arts Commission right now, one of them being the art exhibition curatorial grant line. You'll hit apply, and it will take you to this page here. If you are an organization, you can search for your organization here. This is linked to data sources that link all 501c3s. So your organization should pop up here. And then if you are an individual, you can just hit skip and continue to application, and that will take you to the whole application. The first few questions are eligibility review questions. So have you been a resident of DC for at least a year? You'll say yes to all of these if you are eligible. So you've read the guidelines, you have a social security number, and you're over 18. You'll hit next, and it will take you to the overall application. This is where you'll put your application name. So I'll put, this is a test. You're applying as an individual, or at least I am. Here's my name. Here's my social security number. And then you'll put in your address here. I'm going to put in the I Street Gallery address here. You'll specify your ward. If your address has changed in the last 12 months, this is really only relevant to you if you've been a previous grantee of ours and we need to update your information across all of our portals. But I'm going to say no here. I'll put in my phone number, my email address. If you have a website that you'd like to link, you can put it here. Have you applied for a grant from CH in the past 5 years? I'm going to say yes. Have you received a grant from CH within the last 5 years? I'm going to say no. This is where you'll put an exhibition title. So I'll put test exhibition here. This is where you'll put the amount requested. So if you're just an individual, you'll put 30,000 here. If you are applying with a co-curator, you'll put 35,000. These are just boxes that we have to have due to our grant making usages. Same with this. We need project begin and end dates, and these align with our grant making priorities. So it tells you, please enter October 1st. And then it says, please enter September 30th. So there's only opportunities for you to select one date here. You'll see it's ready for you to click that button. We then have a couple questions related to use of artificial intelligence. CAH does allow you to use artificial intelligence on the creation of the application narrative, as well as any support materials or work samples. We are asking these questions to better understand how AI is being used across all of our grant lines. It is something that either will or will not be shared with the panelists. So in the case of this question, whether or not any of your application narrative has been created with AI, the answer to this question will not be shared with review panelists. But if any of your work samples, so any of the artworks themselves have been created with AI, and you click yes, that will be shared with the review panelists. So this is for their awareness of how AI is involved. So I'm going to say no to both of these questions. And then this is where you start submitting the artworks into your application. So you'll see that the first section here has an area for you to submit up to 10 works. You may be submitting many more than 10 works. You might be submitting 30 works for inclusion in the show. If this is you, there is an opportunity for you to upload more. So you'll submit your first 10 here, and then you'll hit yes. You have more to upload, and then it will open up another box for you to submit, and then another box as well. I think the maximum number of artworks you can submit with this application is 30, but if you have more works to submit, it might make sense to include them all in one document that are over that limit. So for now, I'm going to say no to those two. So it only has slots for 10. And in order to submit files into this application, you'll hit this choose file button and it will bring you directly into your own browser. So I'm going to submit a bunch of pretty random images here that are just screenshots within my application or within my own browser. For now, I'm just going to upload one or two works so you can just see what it looks like to submit a couple works here. And then down below here, you'll have an opportunity to put information related to these works. So you can move these around, and it might make sense for you to label them so that they correspond with the chart here. So it could say one artist, or it could say artist name, artist title, artwork 1, and then artist name, artwork title, artwork 2, just to make sure that everyone understands what's going on here. I'm going to say, here's the artist's name. Here is the title. It was made in 2026. The dimensions of the work are 11 by 14, and it was used wood and acrylic. You'll do that again for the second work here. Five. And then there is an area for you to describe the works. So if you would like to submit artwork descriptions, you actually are required to put something in this box. So this is where you can submit descriptions of the artwork. It is one box. So if there's 10 works here, you'll want to put sort of 10 separate paragraphs here that correspond to each work. I'm just going to put something here so that I can submit this. If you have more work to upload, you'll say yes here and it will sort of bring you to the next batch. But I'm just going to say no here. And then you get to the additional upload section. This is where you'll be submitting all of the various compliance documents and application requirements for this grant line. I'm about to just put in a bunch of dummy documents here, but you'll see that it is a PDF only requirement here. So all of your files should be PDFs and they will not be able to be submitted here if they are not PDFs. So just something to keep in mind as you're working. So I'm going to submit, let's see, just a bunch of PDFs here. And I apologize for making you watch this happen, but you'll put this here. Okay. And I'm filling this out so you can see what a successful application looks like. So I've filled out all of the required bits of this application. And you can review from top to bottom to make sure that everything looks good. I would recommend hitting save draft throughout this work. And it does save on its own, but it's something just to keep in mind of just hitting that save button for peace of mind. If you hit apply and you get an error message, it's because there's a required field on your application that was not properly filled out. It will take you directly to that area. So let's say I don't have a statement of certification uploaded and I hit apply, it will take me directly to that location. So that's just something that's helpful. If you have multiple errors on your application, it won't show you where, it won't take you directly to those multiple locations, but it will specify in red that something is required. So when you're ready, you'll save your draft and then you'll hit apply. You'll get a success notification, and then immediately you will get a notification. I just got a buzz here notifying me that my application was successfully submitted. If you do not get this email, it was not successfully submitted. If you have any technical problems as you're working, please let us know. This is a new system that we're using, and we're sort of building it and letting you use it simultaneously and learning alongside of you. So if there's any errors in the application, please do let me know, and I'll do my best to update it for this year and for future years. I am going to just open up the presentation one last time just to show a couple last slides. And I haven't paused in a sec to see if there's any questions in the chat. Do you have any questions at this point before we start to wrap up?
I think I have one question. I
Sure.
guess so. When did the application open for this particular grant?
I think it was like 2 weeks ago, fairly recent, and the
Okay.
the application is open for I think 6 weeks or 2 months.
Okay. So I'm pretty much teaching myself about grants and I'm joining all these classes so I can learn
That's awesome.
more. I do people typically get prepared for these grants a year in advance just to ensure like they're like prepared for submission?
I It depends on the grant line. For
Okay.
this one, it does require quite a bit. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
say it requires a year of advanced planning, but it it does take a few weeks of really
Yeah.
concerted effort. And I would
Right.
I would say a couple months of effort. So if you're feeling like this year is not the right year for you to attempt, I would encourage you to apply just for the experience.
Experience,
And you
right.
do get debrief feedback on your application as a part of applying to this grant line. So it's just helpful, especially if it's your first time. But if you want to get into the headspace of, okay, I'm going to apply for this grant line next year, it does give you quite a on-ramp to say, okay, I'm gonna get, artist consent from 30 artists next spring, and I'm gonna apply for that open theme.
Right. Prior prep for it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, no problem. So I'm just flagging here a few of our other workshops that we've hosted in the past that go further into detail about our visual art grant applications and some steps to success to bringing together a great application. We've done some workshops in the past that demystified the grant application or the grant panel process. So, how does the panel review your materials? This is great if you haven't had your work reviewed by a panel before and you sort of want to understand how that panel process works. And then we also have a workshop that goes into detail about all of those mandatory support materials that are required with your application. So, what is a statement of certification? What is a W-9? It sort of digs into that as well. We are always promoting new grant opportunities at CAH. And springtime, it tends to be the time of year where we have the most opportunities available. Right around this time into summertime is when you'll start to see a lot of grant announcements. If you would like to sign up to be on our mailing list. This is the best way of keeping up to speed about what those opportunities are and when the deadlines are. We host application assistance workshops like this one for all of our grant opportunities. So please don't be shy about attending those and learning about all of our grant lines. We are also always looking for volunteer review panelists for all of our grant lines. This can be a really great opportunity if you are someone who is new to grants and want to understand how to do grants by reviewing a bunch of grants. We have links to apply to be ACH panelists in the chat right now, and they are paid opportunities. And we are always looking for review panelists. Okay, so these are my contacts. I'm working in office Monday through Friday and available to you via email and by phone. We will be hosting one more of these workshops in June. But in the meantime, please reach out if you have any questions or if you'd like to talk through your exhibition proposal concept. I'm happy to be an ear in that process. I'm going to wrap us up if there aren't any other questions. I really appreciate our small attendance today, and it's always good to get help. And I hope this application workshop was helpful for you. And Vanessa did just drop a bunch of links in the chat to previous art exhibition grants. So this is a great place for you to review all of the great exhibitions that we've been able to host in our gallery to get a sense of what's possible out there. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to stop recording and close us out.